Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Today, I'm going to show you guys just a little bit about how to use this PhET simulation and how we can use it to demonstrate voltage, current, and resistance, and hopefully collect some data, some easy data on how we can collect numbers on those variables to eventually get to Ohm's law. So first, you're going to go to this PhET simulation. And you're just going to click play. You don't have to click download, just click play. It is a flash file now, and it should show up in a moment. And you're going to go to lab. All right, so you're going to click on the lab, and now you have this kind of workspace. And there's a lot of stuff here that you can kind of play with. We got wires, batteries, light bulbs, resistors, which we're going to use, different kinds of light bulbs, and then you have different objects that you can test the conductivity. You can try and test the conductivity of a dog. But for when we're collecting data, we want to kind of keep things as simple as possible. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to just use basically the few things I'm going to really need. I'm going to use a battery that's going to provide some sort of voltage source. I am going to need to measure current, and so I'm going to use over here, I have an ammeter, which will measure the amount of amps. All right, I can kind of rotate it a little bit to make it a little bit easier to put my circuit together. And then over here, back on the left, I have what we call a resistor. In real life, resistors are pretty small. They have little wires that stick out the side, and they have different colors that indicate on how much resistance they give. All right, so I have something that's going to provide resistance, measure current, and provide voltage, which is what we're really trying to figure out. Other things like I'm going to keep the battery resistance. Every material gives resistance, but just to kind of help me control this environment a little bit better, I'm going to keep that at 0. Same with wire resistance at 0. I do want to show the values. And so now I just need to connect it with wires. I can kind of manipulate these. The little blue dots are going to represent the electrons. Notice that they're not flowing because we do not have a closed circuit yet. All right, and there we go. Now I have a nice closed circuit. Right now I'm pushing out 9 volts of electrical energy. It has a total resistance, because I took the wire resistance down to 0, total resistance of 10 ohms, and it's giving a current of 0.9 amps. Now, I can't change this directly, but I can change these. So the nice thing about this simulation is that I can change a lot of the variables. I can make this 12 volts, and then change this into 6 ohms. Notice it's changing the current. Notice I changed both of them, but do remember that if we're doing an experiment, you should only be changing one at a time. So if we're looking at voltage, resistance, and current, if we're going to see what happens when we change voltage, how it affects current, we should keep the resistance the same. So, here's 12, and then let's see what it is at, 22, and then see what it is at 45, or however we're doing these measurements here, or vice versa. If I want to see how resistance affects current, I can change the resistance at different measurements, but I'm keeping the voltage the same. It just depends. You can get this thing kind of going kind of crazy. Just depending on what you do. You can make it burn on fire. So just depending, this is kind of the basic setup. You can add a light bulb if you want, although it might make your data a little bit tricky. You can add a switch if you want to kind of add it. It makes it a little bit tricky. If you ever make a mistake, if you just click on the corner, you can click it, accident will break it apart if you need to fix something. So if you wanted to add, say, a switch, just for the fun of it, you can do that. Oops. And then you can close the switch. There you go. All right. Otherwise, that should be it. You can use this to find out the relationship between resistance, current, and voltage. Although I do want to emphasize, remember, if you're testing, there are 3 variables. You only can change 2 at a time. So one of them has to stay constant if you're measuring 2 of them. So like voltage and current, while resistance stays the same, or resistance and current changes while you keep voltage the same. All right. Otherwise, good luck with your guys' lab. This is a pretty fun simulation. You can kind of play around with it as long as you also collect your data. Thank you very much, and you guys have a great day.